Okay guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I don't have Connor or Mo with me, and I'm just going to go through the standings of the Eastern and Western Conference, and starting in the West, I have the Denver Nuggets being the first seed in the regular season, so I don't think they're the most talented team or the deepest team, but I do think they have some key pieces, and they go out 82 games and they all play hard. They also don't have a lot of injury history. They have Jokic, Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, and I think all those players will continue to take steps towards progressing to being all-star caliber players. I know Jokic already is all-star caliber, but more specifically Gary Harris and Jamal Murray. They also got Jeremy Grant, who's basically a 40% three-point shooter, and he'll be a key addition. And the X factor will be Michael Porter Jr. Can he add anything to the team? And it's up in the air, and I think Denver will be fine without him. But if they have him off the bench, I think that's just another great player they have on their roster. So, secondly, I have the LA Clippers. And everyone knows the moves the Clippers made. They got Kawhi and Paul George. But more underrated, they have extremely good depth. And just going through the list, they have Wilson Chandler, who's a good veteran. They have JaMychal Green, he's 40% from three. Mo Harkless, who's a solid player in the playoffs for the Pacers. Landry Shamet and Jerome Robinson. And Landry, he's a really good three-point shooter, and he was really, really good in the playoffs. He had a clutch three versus the Warriors, and he was just really, really good for them. And they kind of robbed Philadelphia by taking him. I know a lot of Philly fans really liked him, and he was an underrated rookie. And the last guy, Ivan Zubac, who they also stole from the Lakers for basically nothing. I mean, he's another great player who's more depth, and they have Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, and Paul George and Kawhi. The only questions I have with them is, will Kawhi Leonard actually play more than 70 games? And that's kind of up in the air, but I'm assuming he is going to play around 70 games, and I think the Clippers will get the second seed. Some people would say that they are the best team talent-wise, and I do agree with that. But like I said, injuries and the willingness to play 82 games, I think that will hold them back from getting the one seed to teams compared like Denver, who actually try all 82 games, and they really value having the one seed. So third, this may be a little surprise, but I have the Utah Jazz as the third seed, and I really don't think they have the talent to be considered the third best team in the West. But like the Nuggets, they're going to have extremely good depth. They're going to go out all 82 games, and they're going to try hard, play good defense. I mean, they have Mike Conley, who's an upgraded point guard. They have Bogdanovich in the Pacers, who was a 19-point game scorer, and he really picked up the slack when Oladipo went down. So I really like this Jazz team. They also have underrated coach Quinn Snyder, so I think they will be the third seed in the West. And next, getting to more of the superstars, I have the Lakers as the fourth seed. And the reason I do have them as the fourth seed is because LeBron James will be 35 years old, and Anthony Davis, he always kind of gets injured or nicked up during the season. I just have a feeling he's going to miss a handful of games, and LeBron James probably rest a handful of games, and they won't be getting a top three seed in the West, even if they have the talent to. I don't think they really care about having a top three seed. I think they're really built for the playoffs, and that should show in the playoffs, because I definitely think they're better than the fourth seed talent-wise. And fifth, I have the Golden State Warriors. And everyone knows the Warriors, they lost Kevin Durant. That was their main loss. People were kind of expecting that loss, so Golden State countered that by getting D'Angelo Russell. And I think that was a pretty good pickup and a pretty good save. But, I mean, D'Angelo Russell and Steph Curry, the backcourt defensively, that's not going to be close to what they were with Clay, because Clay brought so much to that team, and he was just very, very valuable to that team being a two-way player. I think D'Angelo and Curry, it will work out, because Steph, he really adapts to what anyone plays. And I think they will be a top 5 seed. And I mean, a lot of people are underrating them, saying that Curry's not going to be able to carry the load. And I just don't see that. I think he's going to have a MVP kind of year, put up amazing stats, great shooting. And I think he's going to lead this Warriors team to the 5th seed. And he might shock people and get them to actually to like the 3rd seed, maybe even the 2nd seed. That may be a little kind of far-fetched, but I mean, Steph Curry is a really great player, and I could see him doing that. So at the 6th seed, I have the Houston Rockets. And they're going to be led by James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And that duo I don't think is going to work out. I've kind of stated on it before. They're just extremely high usage rate players. And they're just very ball dominant. I don't see how they can play together. And Mo kind of said before how Harden and Russ already did play together and it already worked. But that was a completely different Harden. Harden was like averaging like 15, 16 points per game. I mean, that's not even comparable to the Harden of today. And the Westbrook back then, I mean, I wouldn't say he was like better stat-wise, but he was more athletic, he was younger, and he brought it for all 82 games. And not that Westbrook today is like terrible on defense or anything, but he is older and he's gone through some injuries. So, I mean, this duo, I don't really see them, like, getting a top 5 seed in the West. And I'll go back to Mo again. Mo predicted the Rockets will win 64 games. I just don't see how you can say that with, I mean, looking at their roster makeup and everything. Also, I think the Rockets will get off to a really slow start. I think they'll get progressively better over the season. And come playoff time, they'll actually be a pretty good opponent, and you won't want to face them just because they have 2 superstars. But I don't see them finishing the regular season with higher than a top 5 seed. I have them at 6th. And for the 7th and 8th seed, I'm just going to kind of go over them together. I have the Blazers and Spurs, Blazers being 7th, Spurs being 8th. And I mean, that's how deep the West is. I mean, the team that made the Western Conference Finals last year is a projected 7th seed in my mind. And it's not because Dame and CJ are like lacking in talent or anything. I think the West is just so deep, and that really shows how LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, they're going to be like fighting for the 8th seed in the West. I mean, that's just a testament to how good the West is. So, I mean, that's really my rundown of the West. And heading over to the East, I think the East is a little bit more simplified. I mean, the West, everyone knows it's always like a few games separating the top team from the bottom team. We saw it last year with, I mean, the Thunder. They went from like the 3rd seed to the 8th seed to the 6th. I mean, they were going back and forth. I mean, I think the East is pretty more straightforward. I might have a little bit difference of opinion than some people, but it's mainly because I don't think some of these teams are going to be completely healthy, and I don't think they take the regular season as serious as some other teams. So, I have the Milwaukee Bucks finishing the 1st seed again. I think Giannis will continue to get better. I mean, he's just trending upwards. I think when he gets a jump shot, it's probably going to be over for the rest of the league. But, I mean, I don't see him developing like a killer jump shot next year. But I still do see them being the 1st seed. They will try hard during the regular season. They lost Malcolm Brogdon, and that was a huge loss for them. But, I mean, they still have a really, really solid team. I think they are going to be the 1st seed in the East. Secondly, I have the Indiana Pacers. And this might be where some people are surprised. But I really don't think they should be surprised. Because, as I said, they got Malcolm Brogdon. They have walking buckets, Jeremy Lamb, and TJ Warren off the bench. And I mean, they have TJ McConnell, who's a scrappy guy. Add in Miles Turner, who's probably going to develop even better. I think this team is going to be really, really tough to deal with in the regular season. I don't know if they're built for the playoffs necessarily, but I think they are going to be a really, really good regular season team. Kind of like the Utah Jazz. They're kind of similar and they're built that same way. So, 3rd, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. And you could argue from a talent perspective, this team is definitely the most talented. But the way I look at it is, I say for an 82-game stretch, is Joel Embiid going to be healthy for like 70 of those games? And I don't think I can say that yet. I mean, he may be proving me wrong this year, but I just don't see him playing 70-plus games. I mean, with his injury history and how he wants to be ready for the playoffs. I mean, he's never really been healthy in the playoffs. So I think Philly will take his minutes pretty light, and he'll be pretty well rested for the playoffs, which means they'll probably drop in seeding when it comes to getting above the Pacers or the Bucks. And the last thing I want to stress is Al Horford. I'm a Celtics fan, and last year Al Horford, I mean, he's a great player. He does everything that you want to see in a player. He can score, pass, rebound. He does virtually everything on the court. He can defend. And I think his age is just a question in my mind. And how many games can he play? I think Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, they're still going to have to carry a huge load when those two forwards are out, Embiid and Horford. So I think this will be a really, really good team. I think they will have a shot at the finals. But when it comes to the regular season, I don't see them getting higher than the 3 seed. I mean, I just don't see it in my mind. They may do it. And with the 4th seed, I have my Boston Celtics. And I'm actually really happy about this season. I'm looking forward to it. Because after last year, all the chemistry issues and all the locker room drama, I mean, Kyrie, it's come out, he even said, like, he was looking at the Nets in, like, December or January. I'm like, the Celtics have basically gotten rid of, I don't want to call them the cancer, but they've gotten rid of the locker room problems, and they're adding Enes Kanter. I mean, he's like a lovable guy. Everyone in the NBA seems to love him. He's kind of a troll. And they have Kemba, who's already said he's, like, trying to fit in, trying to win. He's already gotten his stats in Charlotte, and he doesn't know what, like, real playoff basketball is. So I think he's going to be really determined to fit in with the guys like Tatum and Brown, who should take the next step, I think, this year, and become, like, actually better players than they were with Kyrie. And I think more specifically, I think Tatum will take the leap. And he said he expects himself to average 20 points per game and be an all-star. And I actually see him being able to accomplish that. I don't know about the All-Star thing because the voting and whatever, but I think he could realistically average 20 points per game just because he'll be more comfortable with Kyrie gone and just all the chemistry issues. I mean, it's well documented, everyone knows. So I think the Celtics will be an interesting team. I think that in the playoffs, they could give some teams a run for their money, but they'll probably be like a second round exit or an Eastern Conference Finals exit unless they make a huge trade, maybe getting Blake Griffin or someone. I mean, I don't see the Celtics team contending for a championship yet. And going off that, the Brooklyn Nets I have as a 5th seed, and I touched on it, Kyrie. I mean, he left the Celtics, he's on Brooklyn now, and he's going to have the guys like Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. I mean, he's going to have a pretty good team with him, but I mean, his leadership skills, they're not proven yet. So I don't see the Brooklyn Nets. I think 5 is pretty generous for them. I'm not hating on Kyrie or anything. I just don't think the Nets are built like for Kyrie to come in and automatically be a top 3 team in the East. I just don't see it happening. And Kyrie does have injury history. I mean, last year was probably his most healthy year playing-wise, but I mean, he's bound to miss some games. And I don't see this Brooklyn Nets team making a real deep run in the playoffs or anything, and I have them as the 5th seed. And these next 3 teams, I have the Raptors as the 6th seed, the Heat as the 7th seed, and the Pistons as the 8th seed. I think all these teams, except for the Raptors, I think are better than those last 2 teams, but I think the Heat and Pistons are really fighting for those last 2 playoff spots. And you can throw in the Orlando Magic with them, but I mean, it's the East at the bottom. I mean, it's not going to be that competitive. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter that much who gets in, unless you want experience or something. And going back to Mo, he thinks that the Knicks will be the 7th seed, which I think is pure delusion on his part, and I mean, that's just a Knicks fan being a Knicks fan in my mind. I think the Pistons and Heat, I mean, they'll make the playoffs first off having Jimmy Butler and then having Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin, but I don't think they'll be serious threats in the playoffs. I mean, the Raptors, you could argue, with Pascal Siakam, I mean, if he takes the next step and average like 20 to 22 points per game, maybe they could get the 5th seed, 4th seed. But I mean, guys like Lowry and Gasol, they're aging, and they lost Danny Green. So I mean, it's going to be really hard for the Raptors to kind of contend or do whatever you want to, unless they make a trade like at the deadline or something. I mean, I don't see this Raptors team being that big of a threat. So I've gone through my kind of rankings like 1 through 8 during the regular season. But when it comes to the playoff time, I think the teams like the Lakers, even like the Bucks, the Sixers, I think those teams will actually have the edge over teams like the Nuggets, the Jazz. I think the Clippers, think they're going to try hard in the regular season. But I think the playoffs are where it's at. And I don't think teams are really stressing over having a home court advantage by 1 game. I think we've seen it's pretty easy to steal home court advantage from another team. I mean, just win one of the first 2 games at the other team's home court. I mean, and you already have home court advantage back. So I don't think Kawhi or LeBron or anyone, I don't think they're going to be stressing over 1 game or stressing over being the 3rd seed versus the 4th seed. Unless they really don't want to play someone like the Rockets or the Warriors. I don't see teams stressing like that. But I'm going to give you my Western Conference Finals predictions. And again, it kind of matters like with the seeding. But I'm going to assume the Clippers and Lakers are on opposite sides of the bracket. And I'm going to assume they meet in the conference finals. And I think this will be a pretty interesting series. I think it'll be really hyped up. But I do see the Clippers making the NBA Finals. I think their depth is better than the Lakers. I personally think Kawhi is better than LeBron. I think just his defense and, the Clippers, look at their defensive lineup. Patrick Beverley, Paul George, and they're going to have Kawhi, all to kind of put on LeBron. And Anthony Davis still have Montrezl Harrell to put on him. Montrezl Harrell, he's a scrappy guy. I think he can handle his own with Anthony Davis. I don't see it being that big of a problem. So I have the Clippers advancing to the finals, where I think they'll play the winner of the Bucks versus Sixers. And in that series, I really want to pick the Bucks and Giannis. But I just love this Philadelphia 76ers team. I think Al Horford was a huge pickup for them. I think those guys like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, they've been kind of getting, it's not slept on, but they've kind of getting, criticized. Ben Simmons can't shoot, Embiid's never healthy. Horford can't make the finals. I think those guys are going to be super motivated, along with Tobias Harris. I think that Sixers team has so much talent. And I don't know if the Bucks can kind of bounce back from losing. I think Brogdon was a huge loss. Eric Bledsoe, he really doesn't show up in the playoffs ever. Does he have any track record of showing up in the playoffs? I don't think so. So And then just looking at their second option, Chris Middleton, who I think he's really underrated, and I think he's a part of Giannis being one of the best duos in the league. But Chris Middleton in the playoffs, I mean, he kind of relies on his jump shot. He's a two-way player. But, I mean, he can kind of fold in games. We saw him versus the Raptors. He had like a 10-point game, and he's like a 30-point game. He's kind of inconsistent with his jump shot. And it depends on, like, in the playoffs, can you get your jump shot off against players going all-out defense? And I really don't see him, like, being able to help Giannis that much. So I have the Sixers advancing to the finals. I think they'll beat the Bucks depending on how the seeding is, whatever as I said before, if they're on the same side of the bracket or the opposite side. I see the Sixers advancing to the finals, beating the Bucks in like 6 games. I think that's pretty realistic. And in the finals, I think it'll be a really, really great matchup. I mean, these teams, the Sixers and Clippers, I don't think they're that similar at all. I think Embiid, he's going to go up against Harrell and those guys, Zubac. I think Embiid could really be due for a good series. Ben Simmons going against Beverly, that's going to be interesting to watch. Can Beverly get in his head? But ultimately, as much as I love that Sixers team, I see Kawhi Leonard leading this Clippers team to a championship. And most Clippers fans, if there's any out there, they never would have thought the Clippers would be winning a championship in 2020. I mean, that's just... The Clippers are probably the worst franchise ever in NBA history. I mean, they're one of the most cursed teams. They just have bad luck in general. And I mean, them winning a championship for their fan base, or whatever is left of their fan base, that's going to be really huge for basketball. And it's going to be interesting to see, like, the Lakers fans. I mean, obviously they're not going to like the Clippers winning the championship. But, I mean, it's going to be like little brother, big brother. And little brother he broke through that year, in my opinion. And the Clippers are going to win the championship. I think Kawhi Leonard is going to win Finals MVP. So that'll mean he's been Finals MVP on 3 different teams, which is something that I don't think anyone in NBA history can say. And that's going to be really important for his legacy as a player as he moves up the all-time rankings. And that's basically all I have to say about the matchups, the conference finals. Again, I think it's going to be Clippers versus the Lakers and the Bucks versus the Sixers. I think the Clippers will automatically beat the 76ers in the finals. So if you have any problems with my list or my predictions, I mean, you can go back through and watch them. But I want to stress this point a lot. When I rank the teams 1 through 8, it's over an 82-game season. And I'm not necessarily saying teams like the Jazz are better than the Lakers. I'm just saying I think they'll avoid the injury bug more. I think they'll actually try more than a team like the Lakers, who kind of rest during the regular season. So I think you have to take that into account and not just look at who's better or who's worse. If I was going to do that, I would have done like power rankings, but these are predictions for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference standings. So take into account that you have to look at injuries, other factors, how old players are, do they rest, and that's what I did when I did these rankings. I also took into off-season acquisitions, as everyone should in their rankings, but that's just my insight to why I ranked the teams where I did, and why I predicted the Clippers to win the championship. So, thanks for watching. I know Mo and Connor, they couldn't be here, which is kind of a bummer, but I decided to make this video. It's gotten deleted a couple of times, so I thought, might as well just get it over with and just knock it out. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.